right. Thank you everyone for joining us. It's so nice to see your names in the chat. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to hear about our wonderful annual report. So I'll go ahead and share my screen and we'll get going here with my presentation. Okay. Carly, can you see the proper view there?
Yep, that looks great, Laura.
Okay, thank you. All right, so just once again, hi, my name is Laura Ross. I'm the National Coordinator of Bee City USA and Bee Campus USA for the Xerces Society. And we're here today just to share the amazing content of all of your annual renewal reports for Bee City and Bee Campus affiliates. So I just want to start off by giving you a little overview of what I'm going to be covering. I'm going to just real quickly talk about the Bee City, Bee Campus commitments and show a little affiliate map of where we're at as far as our number of affiliates go. And then we'll talk about the methodology we used for the annual report. And then we'll actually dive in and give little recaps of different elements of many annual reports that you all submitted to us. The order of topics we're going to go over is pollinator habitat, pesticide reduction, outreach, classes and service learnings for our bee campuses, some nice photos of some signage you all submitted, and some beautiful pollinator photos. And then we'll end with lessons learned that you shared with us. So first off, so all the content, all the things that we ask for with Bee City, Bee Campus are based on the kind of the foundation of all of Xerces Society's work around pollinator conservation. There's kind of like four big things we can do to help pollinators, and so our commitments are based around that same concept. So we're asking our affiliates to plant native flowering plants that bloom, provide host plant material for different species, and provide food throughout the growing season, throughout their life cycle. We're asking people to create natural nesting sites, which can include bare soil, dead leaves, dead stems, logs. We're asking communities to reduce or eliminate pesticide use. And then a big part of this is we need to spread the word. We can't just take these actions alone. We need to bring more people into the fold. So that outreach can look like signage or tabling, writing articles, talking to elected officials. There's so many ways you can go. So here's our current affiliate map. We've really grown a ton. Every year we add about 50 new affiliates. The orange triangles are goldenrod triangles are our bee campuses, and the reddish dots are our bee cities. And if you look, it's kind of a population density, reflection of population density. So the areas we're not as big of a presence in, we probably will have affiliates in the future, but it's just kind of, it grows pretty organically and it's a lot of word of mouth. So you kind of will see a lot of spots grow more and more each year as once one affiliate shows up, more show up in the same area. And we're currently at 460 affiliates in 48 states, plus Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico. The only missing affiliate states right now are Alaska and Hawaii. And I just wanted to have this map to show you guys just what a huge, powerful community we've all become together, and just the amount of actions being taken really adds up. So for our methodology for creating our annual report using everyone's renewal reports is basically, we start off this year, we had over 270 renewal reports that we've approved. If you haven't turned in your report and it's due, you're welcome to continue to submit reports through the end of the year. We'd love to see your work. But our annual report captures the data from, at this point, just over 270 affiliates. If you want to see past annual reports or individual renewal reports from 2018 to 2024, those are all on our website at bcityusa.org/work. And Carly will share that link in the chat. And then based on all those individual reports, we then created our written annual report, which is available on that page, which we basically included about 70 affiliates, elements of their reports in ours. And then in this presentation, we highlighted about 45 affiliates. So to give you a sense of the scale, there's so much more awesome work to look at and go through. So we encourage you to peruse those reports anytime. They're really helpful, I think. So our goal with these annual reports each year is we're trying to share practical ideas for communities and schools of all sizes, all different staffing sort of makeups, and different budgets. We want to highlight a broad range of approaches to pollinator conservation and show different stages of progress, people at the beginning, people that are really in this for years, to give you a sense of where you may be at different stages and what ideas might work for you. And then again, we're trying to capture this huge diversity. So we also try to highlight a variety of landscape types and geographic locations. And then finally, we're trying to also highlight new affiliates each year, a different makeup of affiliates. So you're not just hearing from one affiliate every time in every report. So we try to highlight all of you over time. So if you weren't highlighted this year and you felt like you did such outstanding work, I apologize, but there, we do try to feature as many people as possible so everyone gets a chance to shine and we can kind of all learn from each other and just show how much good work is happening. All right, so we're going to dive right in. So overall stats, our affiliates held over 4,800 events in 2024. They had over 2,400 habitat projects and enhanced over 3,800 acres. And then total of all their activities, they engaged over 690,000 people in pollinator conservation. So just an unbelievable amount of engagement. I'm just so impressed with collectively what everyone has accomplished. It's just amazing. For our B campuses, we have a couple additional commitments. We asked that they incorporate pollinator conservation into education. So for their 4 credit courses, they had over 800 courses with over 43,000 attendees. For service learning projects, they had over 499 activities with over 12,000 attendees. And in their continuing education courses, they had about 269 courses with about 8,000 attendees. So just a lot of great ways to engage their community. All right, so we're diving into habitat first. Each of these groups, we kind of start with Bee City and then we highlight some bee campuses in each section. But I think the content is often helpful for both. So I hope you enjoy. First off, Ponca City, Oklahoma had 3 habitat projects in 2024 that covered 5 acres. They had a lakeside habitat that's to protect quail, pheasants, and pollinators. They created a 4.5-acre habitat by an airport that needed the trees removed. And rather than choosing to do turf, they decided to install pollinator habitat to reduce the need for mowing and create pretty high value habitat. And then at a park next to an elementary school, they had some redundant play equipment. Since the school was right there and had play equipment, instead of replacing it, they decided to make that a pollinator plot, which was a nice idea because it was really accessible and along a walking trail. And this is photos from a tree giveaway they did at a separate event. And I wanted to highlight Raleigh, North Carolina. They have a greenhouse that I think is just really exciting. They've grown over 10,000 native perennials through their Parks and Natural Resources Department in this greenhouse. It's just, I think, such a wonderful setup for a city like them. With that, they've managed to do 90 pollinator habitats throughout the city. And additionally to that, they've removed over 50 acres of invasive species. They planted over 500 trees and created 11 acres of wildflowers for pollinators. And they maintained 32 monarch way stations. And one of the reasons they were able to do so much is they've engaged over 5,000 volunteers who did over 12,000 hours of pollinator conservation work. So a wonderful team effort with an outstanding greenhouse. And then these two I wanted to feature together because the ideas are similar, from Woodstock, Virginia, and Juniata College in Pennsylvania. In Woodstock, Virginia, they have a tribute tree program to memorialize a person or event. And then at one of their events, an arborist shared facts about native trees with the people that were there for the memorial planting. Um, and Juniata College has something similar where they do a graduation forest for graduating classes. This last year, they planted over 275 native trees. And their goal is to, quote, re-establish native habitat while encouraging stewardship in the newly graduated class, inviting them year after year to see how their forest has grown. And I just thought that was a really lovely way to create a sense of ownership and just make the students feel welcomed and connected even after they graduate. And Triton College has this really nice bioswale project. They had to redo some parking lots, and so they added 18 little bioswale islands with rocks and native plants and a native tree in each. And then they did one long bioswale along a walkway. And they said for our campus, adding more bioswales was not only cost effective, but an easy to implement solution to add more pollinator friendly spaces to the campus. And I just love that idea. It's such a multi-purpose sort of function within a campus and adds a lot of beauty. I just really think that's a lovely way to, in a cost-effective way, add pollinator habitat. At University of Rochester, they got their school mascot out to start prepping what they call messy meadows, where they basically identified zones throughout campus that they wanted to basically move away from turf grass and create meadows with the aim to reduce mowing and create more habitat. So they're really trying to do a lot less mowing in these areas. So we look forward to seeing how that habitat develops. Okay, next up, we're going to talk about pesticide reduction. So I wanted to start by recognizing all of the affiliates who reported that they had dropped all pesticide use on city or campus grounds, or I should say municipal grounds. So this is self-report. Every year we ask our affiliates if any of them have fully dropped pesticide use. So we do see a little bit of change year to year on who says that this is something they're doing. But for 2024, the B cities that dropped pesticide use are Bell Buckle, Tennessee, Bethania, North Carolina, Grapevine, Texas, Meteorboro, Pennsylvania, Middletown, Maryland, Newcastle, New York, Pine Lake, Georgia, Scottsville, Virginia, Seaside, California, Spearfish, South Dakota, which I'll see next week. Looking forward to visiting with you. Westminster, Maryland, Williamstown, West Virginia. And for our B campuses, SUNY Upstate Medical University in New York, Truckee Meadows Community College in Nevada, and University of Texas at Austin. And hopefully I got all your names right. I went online to double check I pronounced everyone right. So I should say this is just such a huge accomplishment. I'm just so impressed that communities of so many different sizes were able to fully drop pesticide use like this. So it's a big achievement. And I know it can seem daunting to the idea of dropping pesticide use fully, but it can be done. So it's pretty exciting. All right, so some examples of pesticide reduction activities from our affiliates. Carlinville, Illinois, you may have seen their affiliate spotlight a couple years ago. They say on City of Carlinville land, they do not use chemicals. And the B City Committee chair actually met with the Public Works Director and got a commitment that they would not use chemical weed spray. For their parks district, which isn't managed as city property, they do use chemicals for pest management, but they have a master gardener who attends the application of those pesticides with staff and ensures that they're using a good application rate. Usage is minimal. They're applying the pesticides at the correct time of day and conditions to minimize harm, so they're looking at to avoid when it's raining or super hot or you're not going to want to spray flowers that are attractive to pollinators. Lots of different steps you can take. So the idea of educating staff while they're out, I thought was a unique take. Additionally to that, they have a big emphasis of reducing residential chemical use. They have 2 city councilors and a zoning administrator that educate the public about the dangers of chemical runoff. So that's a great way to frame reducing pesticide usage, is talking about the damage that runoff can create for many different ecosystems. And then in this photo, we have Carlinville. They have a nice sign that says, "Please do not spray. Thank you." And in the background, you can see some of their beautiful bee sculptures that were featured in that blog I mentioned. Next up, in Lake Oswego, Oregon, I was just there the other week. They have an IPM policy for employees and contractors. And some of the tools they use to implement that IPM is they emphasize mechanical weeding, mulching, and leaving the leaves. And one thing that I thought was especially interesting and valuable is they inform their engineering department of the active ingredients in their herbicides that they are using. So then when they do testing of their waterways, they can look for those pesticides to make sure they're not applying them incorrectly. So I just thought that was a really nice approach. Additionally, as many of you probably already know, if you have different pesticide application licenses, their staff has those, and the ones that do have to do continuing education each year. But beyond that, their Parks and Rec staff also attend trainings around tree care, learning about new pests coming into the area, and then learning about best practices for pesticide use and pest management. San Francisco is probably one of the more famous cities for their pesticide reduction efforts. Their IPM plan is considered a great model. You can check out their website. It's really thorough and great. But so they implement pollinator-friendly pest management activities all throughout the city, but especially at public spaces and community gardens. So that's what they focused on in their report for this. So they do public workshops where they talk about IPM, ecological sanitation, and sustainable gardening methods. They have restoration nurseries throughout the city that only use organic practices and follow IPM. And they use the UC Davis air prevention program, which is for Phytophthora, which is a plant damaging oomycete, which you may know as a water mold. So they have practices all about keeping that oomycete out of the system. So they do water management, scouting, hand removal, sanitation, and then they test all the plants for those oomycetes before they leave to be planted. And UC Davis, I encourage you to check out their program. They're also a bee campus. And then at one of the examples they gave was at Hummingbird Farm, which is a community garden. They have chinampas, which are floating gardens inspired by the Nahua floating gardens. And these are a unique way where it provides refuge and food for pollinators and beneficial insects. And they say it's a holistic, habitat-based approach to ecological pest management. I just thought was a really beautiful way to, mix things up as far as how you do IPM. At College of Southern Maryland, they are now implementing their IPM plan. Great job. And they have many different approaches, including they're doing soil testing before fertilization. They've stopped using pesticides around childcare areas, and they don't do prophylactic spraying around buildings anymore. They just do targeted baiting and spot treatments. Additionally, for turf care, are aerating and overseeding and using organic methods. They've switched to low maintenance grasses on new soccer fields and added moisture sensors so they're not overwatering. That's a key element with pest management oftentimes, is getting that watering schedule right. They also have new low and no mow zones with wildflowers around campus. And then they've implemented a net zero tree removal policy and planted fruit trees on top of that and completed a tree inventory. So they actually know what's there and what needs to be taken care of. And if you're a tree campus or tree city, you probably know about the importance of tree inventory. So this works for both Bee City and for Tree City sort of things. Right, and then at UC Santa Barbara, they are trying to basically recreate habitat for the rare and endangered Crotch's bumblebee, which have historically been observed on campus. So they're reducing and eliminating pesticide use on campus managed land. And then they're also publicizing the negative effects about pesticides on insects to the public, especially emphasizing the houses that are adjacent to the UCSB property areas where they're targeting that they've targeted for trying to rehabilitate for Crotch's bumblebee. So a really nice way to engage the public and ask them to join you in something like this. Take a water break here. All right. So at University of Wisconsin-Madison, their grounds team and Green Fund have partnered up to work towards a Rewild Your Campus certification. You guys may know it as Herbicide-Free Campus. They got adopted by the Rewild nonprofit and kind of expanded what they're offering. So the university is trying to avoid synthetic chemicals at 4 highly visible spots around campus and using that work at those spots as a model to inform changes to landscape management and policies elsewhere on campus. So as part of that, they've implemented organic turf grass management techniques, which include using compost, corn gluten meal, and mechanical processes for management, including soil aeration. And in case you're not familiar with corn gluten meal, it can be debated on how useful it is in every situation, but it can be quite helpful. It's basically a byproduct of cornstarch manufacturing. You have to apply a lot of it. It's 60% protein generally, and it inhibits root formation of weed seeds that are on the surface, or any seeds, mostly the root formation if they're on the surface. So it doesn't control weeds that are already established, but it can inhibit new ones from forming. And it can also be a good fertilizer. Additionally, they have an arboretum with over 1,000 acres, and they have many different habitat types there. I wasn't able to highlight them all. But their big focus is managing invasive species and overabundant species. So they do a lot of mowing, tree girdling, cutting, hand pulling, and then they're really careful about using pesticides to do spot treatments and are highly selective. And in the photo here, they're doing some soil testing on some turf. All right, jumping into outreach. We had a great a bunch of different events from Sandy, Oregon, just east of us here in Portland. They created, wasn't able to list all their events, but one of them that I really liked was they did an educational full moon hike series, which included information about nocturnal pollinators. And then they were nice enough to partner up with another bee city just south of them, Estacada. Estacada is a little newer. And so Sandy hosted 2 events and allowed Estacada to join in. So they did a panel discussion with experts on pollinators from both Estacada and Sandy. And they talked about pollinators and habitat creation. And then they did a showing pictured here of the documentary, My Garden of 1,000 Bees. And then they tabled as well. That was for World Bee Day. And if you aren't familiar, this documentary is still available to screen for free. If you just search My Garden of 1,000 Bees, Bee City, you can find our promo kit on how to do your own screening of this film. Livingston, Montana had so many great events. They've got some really strong leadership with their Bee City committee. One of their events was a webinar with their with Park County Environmental Council, community conversation on pollinators. They had 2 tables at a native plant sale. They gave away over 50 of these beautiful Livingston Loves Bees yard signs that Clay Bolt designed. He's a pretty well-known pollinator conservationist and photographer. And then at another booth, they were giving away wildflower seeds. They also had a pollinators exploration day with a group called Farm to School Park County, where high schoolers learned all about pollinators, but they also got a chance to do photography with clip-on macro lenses on their phones. And they said, we were thrilled to catch a threatened Western bumblebee. So that's some great hands-on learning. Additionally, they formed a group called Livingston Lawn Liberators, which is focused on converting lawns into native landscaping. They've done native seed and plant swaps and hosted a native plant landscaping tour, or tours, plural. They also did a pull a weed, plant a seed field day with 2nd graders, where students removed about 60 pounds of invasive plants and spread 5 pounds of native seeds across about an acre. Pretty impressive for second grade. And then with the Wild Seed Initiative, they created the Livingston Loves Bees flower pack seed packs, which are distributed to residents along with doing seed bombs. And they're encouraging residents to plant seeds in boulevards and front yards and then monitor their plantings to help them determine the best seed mix for Livingston. So I just thought that was some great interaction with the public. And here's a picture of clay bolt. I think this is part of the Bumblebee Atlas survey for Montana. Wichita, Kansas held their second annual ICT Bee Fest. ICT stands for Wichita. It's a free event planned and implemented by the committee. They had tons of events, including bug netting, a pop-up butterfly house, a bumblebee petting zoo, which is where you have male bumblebees, where people can actually pet them because they aren't able to sting. And then they even had local native plant vendors. Additionally, they had education booths exploring insect senses, how to create pollinator gardens, information about having healthy soil, and much more. And they said in 2023, they had 530 attendees. And then in 2024, they had 750 attendees, making this the largest pollinator conservation or pollinator event in Kansas. So great work, Wichita. Very strong start. Next up, we have University of Connecticut. They center a lot of their bee campus work around Spring Valley Student Farm, which is a permaculture farm run by students. It has an edible food forest as well. And they rely a ton on volunteers. One of their events is an Earth Day Spring Fling, where students grew hundreds of native flower seedlings and gave them away in little newspaper pots that included instructions for care and a little invitation for them to visit the farm. They also did an Insect Wonders at the Farm event for families, which was part of their Bug Week on campus. They had multiple booths for visitors, including a Jeopardy style game for kids about pollinators, a scavenger hunt for bugs and beneficial insects found on the farm, and bug themed arts and crafts. And this was, again, a student farmer volunteer event. So just a great way to engage the public and do some hands-on learning. And then University of Texas at Martin, I'm sorry, University of Tennessee at Martin held a number of events, including a weed wrangle where student volunteers removed invasive privet from the campus greenway to make room for a later planting of native flowers. And then I believe this was the, after that, they then did the Kabloom event, which I love the name of. This is their little announcement flyer featured on the left. And this was where students assisted campus grounds staff on about 4 hours of planting flowers around campus gardens. I just thought that was a really impressive group of like amount of time to spend planting and beautifying the campus and creating pollinator habitat. And then on top of that, they did Pollinator Week events. Then for University of Puerto Rico at Utuado, they did a ton of events, including they went out and visited 27 schools to talk about the importance of pollinator habitat. And then they kind of helped create a game plan for those schools for where they're going to install pollinator gardens this year. Additionally, they had 33 teachers join a workshop where they taught them about pollinator conservation and gave them ways they can implement pollinator education into their science and math courses. They also have a huge Festival Tierra Adentro, which is basically a sustainable farm sort of festival, 4 days long with the public. They did a ton of events, including habitat tours, pollinator garden workshops. They gave away free seeds and did a public Q&A to help them do pollinator conservation. All right, jumping into the campus-specific commitments for the courses. University of Iowa has a number of courses that incorporate pollinator conservation, including doing a prairie restoration course. They have an entomology lab. They do an environmental conservation course that focuses on urban ecology. So they're looking at sustainability and creating healthy human populations in urban areas, as well as supporting biodiversity and ecosystems. And then I thought this was really interesting. They have a wildlife and habitat conservation law course that's interdisciplinary, focused on species and habitat protection laws. And they use the McBride Nature Recreation Area, which is managed by the campus, for the students to do hands-on learning. They learn about how state and federal laws work in practice by learning from experts in the field. So I just thought that was a really nice way to take those big concepts and show students how it works on the ground. I love this photo. This is from University of California, San Diego. They have a Bee City Ambassador program, which is kind of like an internship. It's not paid, but it provides formal co-curricular record recognition, which is something that they have on campus to recognize student work. And it also supports the development of competencies around civic engagement, leadership, communication skills, and critical thinking. This ambassadorship is pretty rigorous. They have to interview for it. It lasts at least one academic year. They have to organize tabling events, do pollinator conservation awareness campaigns, and do workshops or tours of the pollinator gardens. So I just thought that was a really nice way to give students kind of a chance to take a leadership role in pollinator conservation and see where they can take this. And it could be really a great career development tool. And then University of South Carolina, upstate in South Carolina, has a cool program called Engage Green, which is an instructor-focused boot camp for 16 sections with 11 instructors across 10 Gen Ed and University 101 courses. And basically, they use the focus around the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, as well as talking about invasive species and pollinator habitat. And through all this, they're collaborating with the Spartanburg Area Conservancy to try to get teachers to partner with them and give them opportunities to do so. And this is all part of a multi-year revitalization project of the Upper Chinkapin Greenway, which covers over 100 acres of urban forest and is near campus. And they say this program transformed how we integrate career competencies in the curriculum. Additionally, this sort of program is also used as part of their lifelong learning course. So they're finding a way to implement this in multiple ways, which I thought was a great touch. And these are a picture of some of the instructors. All right, so we're going to take a little photo break here. I wanted to share some beautiful signage from our affiliates, including this beautiful painting from Merrick Stanton in Estacada. He actually made our state pollinator conservation license plate when he was in high school. And so he did this beautiful illustration in Estacada and is on their Bee City committee and he made a Estacada Bee City. And then Seaside, California, they decided to hang one of their Bee City USA street signs at their community garden, which I thought was a really nice touch. You can see all those beautiful pollinator plants blooming nicely in the background. Decatur, Georgia, also known as Beecatur. They've been doing a lot of work around trying to protect mining bees and educate land managers that they don't need to do anything to remove mining bees. So they've got these nice temporary signs that do a little bit of education about why mining bees are important and what they're doing here, as well as a QR code so people are able to learn more. And I know this one's too hard to really read up close, but I just wanted to feature it because I thought this is a really nice way to kind of integrate all the concepts around pollinator conservation that we talk about. So this is University of Minnesota. They've got this nice interpretive sign at pollinator habitat, and it says actions to help pollinators, plant flowers, provide homes, collect data, take climate action, no pesticides. And again, they have a QR code for people to get more information. So there's nice illustrations. It's really engaging. It allows people to understand what they're seeing and then take the next step of actually doing something themselves. So kind of, I think, the sweet spot for an interpretive sign. And I love this sign from University of Louisiana at Lafayette. You should check out their report. It's really nice. They have this bilingual sign in Spanish and English. And it says, "This area is pollinator habitat. Please, no mow, no spray. Thank you." And then it has little illustrations of different types of pollinators. And I love this because it's a really easy to see sign. It pulls you in visually, so you can just look at the bugs and go, "Oh, I think I know what this is about." And then this is something that you can put up all over. And especially when you're first creating habitat like this, where you see the plants are super small, it is hard to tell what's a weed and what's a native plant. So signage like this can save you a lot of heartache of having to replant a beautiful habitat you've just installed. So I highly recommend installing signs like this. It'll make your life a lot easier. And then next, finally for signage, this is Dickinson College in Pennsylvania. They chose to put one of their street sign designs up in this beautiful pollinator garden with liatris. And in the background, you can see some nice seating. I see some milkweed in there too. So what an inviting space and a great way to show off what how beautiful pollinator habitat can be. All right, we're going to look at some pretty pollinator photos next. So we have a nice bumblebee picture from University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, a monarch butterfly from Moorestown, New Jersey. This abundant meadow in Hawthorne Woods, Illinois, with a swallowtail butterfly in the center there. I see it looks like Monarda, bee balm, and maybe pale coneflower. And this beautiful green-eyed carpenter bee from Mississippi State University. And if you've never seen a long-tailed skipper, they're quite the sight. This is in Greenwood, South Carolina. That looks like butterfly weed, I think. And then we got some showstopper photos to end with. This is from iNaturalist, taken on campus at University of California, Riverside. This is a cactus bee. Look at all that pollen. And then finally, this is University of Michigan Dearborn. This is a sweat bee that was the winner of an annual pollinator photo contest they do, which is a great way to engage the public and to show off the awesome beauty of our pollinators. So I highly recommend you check out their photo contests over their years. They have some great pictures. All right, and to wrap things up before we start into questions, I wanted to share the advice that all of our affiliates have shared in their annual reports. A couple years ago, we added a section asking, what lessons have you learned? Anything you'd like to share? So I kind of combined these into a couple different themes here. So first off, around building a strong committee and volunteer group. Bellevue, Nebraska says, there needs to be continuity when someone leaves the group. We now have multiple co-chairs and are always recruiting new people to be on board so that if one person leaves, there are more who are informed. Eugene, Oregon says, engage volunteers in habitat restoration and maintenance. Engaging volunteers in habitat restoration and maintenance significantly reduces the need for chemical pest control methods. And they really mean it because they implement volunteers at their parks and have been able to eliminate pesticide use, at least from some of their parks, if not all. And then University Park in Maryland says, maintain your volunteers, annual thank you parties, honor with civic duty pins, welcome the children, and create a safe place for all to return to. So just really nice advice. Next up, for funding, we talk a bit about this. I try to feature funding opportunities in our e-newsletter. It's definitely something that I think everyone could use more of. So we have some advice from East Georgia State College. They say, always seek out local groups for financial assistance and volunteers. And I think that's important. If you keep it local, I think you're probably going to have a higher chance of securing funding and volunteer assistance. There are some great national funders, but I think you're going to have a higher chance at success if you stay local. Farmingdale State College, SUNY, they say applying for grants and or plant donations where possible has been huge for us to continue trying to become a more bee-friendly campus. So keeping it flexible, looking for in-kind and cash. That's a good way to approach this, kind of keep it dynamic. Next up, another big theme with your lessons learned that I saw was small steps add up. So Ypsilanti, the charter township says, start small. Do not be intimidated because something is better than nothing. St. Ambrose University in Iowa says it won't happen in 1 year or even 3 years. And sometimes there are steps back in addition to steps forward. So I think that's a good way to think of it. It's not all going to be successes. You just chip away and keep moving forward. And over time, you'll see great progress. And then finally, from Spearfish, they say, many of the things we did in 2024 took minimal time and effort away from our daily operations. With the guidance provided by Xerces, we were able to make small changes operationally that made a big difference in our community. Support internally across several city departments, as well as support from the public, has allowed our program to grow and new ideas to be brought forward and discussed. Great approach. Thank you. And then finally, I wanted to end with, I think one of the big things I hear over and over is collaboration is key, that collaboration is the way to success. So from Rowlett, Texas, I highly recommend all the lessons learned they listed, but one I wanted to call out was their emphasis on working with regulators. They said, collaborating with regulatory bodies to create policies and city codes that support chemical-free, environmentally, and pollinator-friendly practices is vital to creating lasting change in our community. And I just love this from University of New Mexico Taos. They said, perhaps the most rewarding lesson has been the sense of community that pollinator conservation has fostered. The Bee Campus designation has sparked excitement across campus and engaged students in hands-on learning, from the smallest of our students at Kids Campus, elementary, middle, and high school students from our community, to our college students. The designation has inspired local organizations and schools to explore partnerships with us and pollinator friendly initiatives. The momentum generated this year demonstrates that pollinator conservation is not just about ecology, it is about building connections, education, and shared stewardship. And that just really spoke to me. I think that's a big part of what we're trying to create here with Bee City and Bee Campus and what you're all creating. So those sort of connections, I think that's kind of the magic spark that makes Bee City and Bee Campus, is those sort of collaborations and shared enthusiasm and passion. So thank you to all of you who contributed all your wonderful efforts to pollinator conservation in 2024 and beyond. I just wanted to end with fun little collection of the many, many beautiful bee costumes I get to see each year. So thank you to all of you. Your work is meaningful and significant and is really making a difference on the ground. So with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Carly to start going over your questions and comments.
Thank you, Laura. We don't have a lot of questions coming in so far, but I do have a couple for you. And maybe folks can, if they want to raise their hand and help us answer these as well, if they have advice, that's great. I typed it out in the chat, but for anyone who was certified at any point in 2025, you do not need to renew until February 2027, just a reminder. And that report can cover all your activities since certification. And let's see, Haley Heath was looking for reporting data collection system advice. She says, we will need to collect the report data from CBOs and many different city departments. Does anyone have methods and advice for setting up this data collection? Thank you. And while someone's answering this, I can go grab the reporting spreadsheets that we have available.
Yeah, thank you, Carly. Yeah, so Carly made some beautiful spreadsheets for us this year to allow you all to collect your data throughout the year in a easy to organize spreadsheet. It's kind of a fancy one, so it has to be downloaded as a zip file to open it because it's basically like a tiny database. So this will allow you to collect all of your reporting data in a way that allows you to compile it easily. So you're welcome to share that spreadsheet with any department. Hopefully that will kind of ease that data collection process. But if anyone has any other advice on that, you're welcome to chime in, any affiliates or Matthew or Carly.
Yeah, if you would like to use the raise hand function at the bottom of your screen, that'll send us a notification and then I can unmute you if you'd like to talk, just so everybody knows. Okay, Vivian, I'm going to unmute you. Hi, Vivian.
Hi. Um, I thought yeah, here I am. Um, I am just inspired as well as being, very much informed on a subject that fascinates me and that involves me in a lot of my volunteer work, which is with the Massachusetts Pollinator Network. And I was really excited to learn about everything that the bee cities and bee campuses are doing. My special focus is on bee campuses, and I was wondering about outreach to secondary schools. I know that you did include some from lower elementary and secondary schools in your report, but obviously the focus has been on college campuses, and I am on the site design committee for plans for a new high school in our town. And I'd really like to have more information about what's being done on new campuses, because there's going to be a lot of destruction on the site before the new building goes up. And then once it goes up, what to install in the site design in terms of trees and plants and the meadows, whatever is being done at other secondary schools. Because when I point to colleges, like some work that we've done with Berkshire Community College right here in Berkshire County, Massachusetts, they say yes, but that's a college, and we're a different situation with the high school. So that's my first question. And then my second question is that the Massachusetts Pollinator Network is constantly being asked, mainly by residential homeowners, about dealing with invasive plants and wanting to avoid use of herbicides, pesticides, etc., but asking us, how do you do it? What do you do, etc. So two questions, if I may.
Yeah, thank you. Great question. So, yes, B campus is focused on colleges and universities. So, we don't see as much focus on K through 12 through them, but sometimes they do partner with local schools. Many of our B cities do carry out some of the commitments of B campus on K through 12 grounds. And we really encourage that. That's a great way to meet the commitments of Bee City. I'll share in the chat our little visit with Norcross, Georgia, back in like 3 years ago. Basically, we visited an elementary school and middle school, so you can get a chance to see how they've implemented pollinator habitat in two very different ways. At their elementary school, they have an outdoor pollinator education garden with like adjustable desks and whatnot. And then at their middle school, they've got basically a forest and then some raised pollinator garden beds as well. And then they've got outdoor classrooms scattered throughout that forest and the edge of the property. That's just really beautiful. So those are some good inspirational ideas. As far as pesticide reduction with invasive species removal on residential property, I would encourage you to check out our Pollinator Conservation Resource Center on the Xerces Society website. I'll put a link in the chat as well. If you click on the map for your area, there's lots of regionally specific resources, including for we do have like a meadow management guide that I think you might have some good techniques in there. And then we do have, gosh, what else? The habitat prep resources we have on our website might be helpful. Matthew, do you have any other thoughts on that?
No, I think you've covered it pretty well, Laura. This seems like a longer conversation, rather than one question in a webinar. But Vivian, I apologize, I can't remember where you are, but we do have staff scattered around the country, and we can probably connect you with one of our pollinator staff in your local area, or at least in your region, and they would be able to give more specific guidance and information for the kind of projects that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Massachusetts, she's in.
Massachusetts. Okay, that's what I thought, but I didn't want to like say Maine or, you know. But yeah, no, we have staff in that area, and there will be other organizations as well that we can probably push you towards too, if we can't directly help.
Thank you.
Sure.
Vivian, and before I move to a new question, I saw that Tony had raised his hand, so it might be related. So I'm gonna let Tony talk here. Hi, Tony.
Yeah, I totally agree with the need for more coverage on secondary schools. I've been trying to work with, I live in Seattle, and I've been trying to work with Seattle schools on that, and their mindset is still kind of like in the lawn, in the grass. You know, grass is rules everywhere. So, but I also wondering how we can. Who would you suggest? Seattle used to be a bee city, and the person, from what I understand, the person who was overseeing it passed away, and then never. So there was never any follow up. We do have some connections with Seattle Parks and Rec. Who else would you recommend reaching out to kind of get Seattle rolling back into the bee city?
Yeah, that's perfect. Tony, I've actually been talking with some local people in Seattle about relaunching their Bee City work. So if you email beecityusa@xerces.org, I can connect you with the contacts I have now.
Cool. Yeah, because I do a lot of macro photography, and every time I go out, I mean, my effort really is to try to help people recognize that they have a gem in cities, because cities are probably some of the most diverse places for habitat, because you know, out in farmland, there's not as much room for especially native bees, because you know, bees nest in the ground, etc. So, so if we can really kind of get to the point where we're helping people understand that you know, you don't have to go out to find all these wonderful insects that are so important to us. And in fact, you know, we're going to have to start growing more food in the city anyway. So, you know, let's start there.
Yeah, totally.
Thanks for answering my question.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Tony. I had just a general question in the chat. Are affiliates able to share out the photos in your presentation as long as they give the appropriate credit that you included in there as well?
Gosh, Matthew, how does that work if they've given us permission to use it?
If they've given us permission to use them, then we have permission.
Just us.
Yeah. We can't necessarily give anybody else permission to use them because they're not our photos. But once it's online, I guess, you know, that's the challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, we encourage you to reach out to those affiliates.
Yeah.
If you want permission.
Someone could take a screenshot and we would never know.
But don't do that.
Yeah, of course.
All right. Thank you. And I'm going to take one from the chat here. Timothy asked this to the hosts and panelists, but I think it's a great question for everyone. He would love to connect with a bee city that was successful in helping to ban pesticides. Would anyone on this call be willing to share their email? So if you would like to share your email in the chat, make sure it says everyone. But we could also probably, Timothy, get you connected with some folks that we discussed in the presentation today.
Yeah, I have a note I'll reach out to you, Timothy.
And I'm going to go over to the Q&A now. I'm kind of switching back and forth. Amanda is wondering, she says, we are working on restoring our local park since the hurricane last year and wondering about ways to get funding for projects and volunteer management that our nonprofit is managing. And again, folks are welcome to raise their hands too if they have suggestions.
Amanda, if you're a bee campus already, or bee city, we do have disaster relief funding, up to $1,000 available as a one-time, reimbursement-based, funding source. So please feel free to, if you just, I'll put it in the chat, our disaster relief, fund, project fund, but, yeah, please check that out. Otherwise, it really depends on where you live, what might be available. But you can start with this. So that's in the chat. But if you have any Keep America Beautiful chapters in your area, that might be an option. Native plant societies, local bird conservation groups sometimes might have ideas for you. And then we try to highlight funders in our e-newsletter. If you're not subscribed, I encourage you to do so. We sometimes have find opportunities for like seed giveaways and whatnot and small grants that we come across that we share.
Great, thank you. And it sounds like, yeah, Amanda said Asheville is a bee city, and thank you for the response. We did have someone ask about IPM, and I did type out an answer there in the chat and posted a few resources, but just so everyone is aware, ideally an IPM plan will be submitted to your profile by your first renewal report date. It is a requirement, but we are flexible on the timeline. If you want to reach out to us, we do not grade the IPM plans, and we also have staff that are able to assist and review draft IPM plans. So you can email bcityusa.org if you're interested in that resource. And then I also posted our IPM plan toolkit link in the chat as well with lots of helpful tips.
And stay tuned. The end of next month, we're launching even more IPM resources in a webinar. So Carly, if you could put that in the chat as well.
Yes.
I encourage you all to attend that to see our new resources.
Let's see here. Amy is wondering, she says, I live in a town of 7,300 and I'm on the park commission. Every time I bring up Tree City and Bee City membership, I am told our staff doesn't have time for oversight and reporting. Does anyone have tips for getting cities on board with Bee City USA?
Feel free to raise your hand, anyone, if you'd like to chime in my experience with assisting you all, I find that if you hit a wall in one way, I would talk to a different department or reach out to a different city councilor, perhaps one that represents you directly. Another good option is turning to the public, doing a petition or rallying scout, like a Girl Scout group, reaching out to teachers, gardeners in town, local nonprofits that are focused on sustainability, local businesses that rely on pollinators can be a good technique. But sometimes it just takes a little while and you just need to show community enthusiasm to kind of show them there's a demand from the public for this sort of thing. But if anyone has any other tips, we'd love to hear them.
I'm not seeing any raised hands. So if somebody comes up with an idea, you're welcome to put it in the chat as well. I had a similar question about resources. What's the best way to convince local churches with massive turf lawns to create pollinator habitat? Is there a ready-made resource or presentation that can be used for example, churches and schools?
I don't have one specifically for churches, but we do have a ton of bee cities that do carry out pollinator conservation work on church property and other groups like that. So if you, I would approach it from a stewardship angle and saying, you know, this is a way to, you know, protect this valuable resource in our community, our pollinators, you know, that this is something we can do to engage with a healthy community and create oftentimes people frame it around like saying, you know, you can create kind of a peaceful sanctuary. So really using that property in a way that can be perhaps reflective or meditative. Signage can help to kind of show them like how to like, you know, put in a bench and kind of make it something that's more of a place where people want to visit and gather. That can be a good approach for any sort of group property like that. But I would think that many of our pollinator conservation resources, like our parks guides, have good information. Again, that Pollinator Conservation Resource Center, I'd click on that map and look at the resources we list there. I think you'll find many of them are applicable.
Great. Thank you so much, Laura. I just want to remind everybody, I know that we're 5 minutes past the hour. We're going to stay and continue to answer questions, but this webinar is being recorded and we'll have it up in a few days on the Xerces Society YouTube channel. That's going to be on the Bee City playlist. So that's
Yeah, and if you need to step out, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time to hear all the great work that our Bee Cities and Bee Campuses accomplished in 2024. And thank you for all of your great questions and comments in the chat. We really appreciate you just being a part of this community. And thank you for trying to take on, by asking these questions about taking on more and more. I think it's just really beautiful that everyone is trying to come up with more ways to help. It's just really inspiring. But yeah, we'll continue to answer questions. So feel free to raise your hand or add something to the Q&A.
all right. Lots of thank yous in the chat for the presentation. Let's see here. I did have somebody ask about lists of nurseries or seed companies that do not use neonics, and I'm just going to post again the link to the Pollinator Conservation Resource Center. We have a native nursery directory on there that is regional, so it'll be local to you.
Can I just add one comment to that?
Yeah.
Just because they're a native seed or native plant nursery doesn't necessarily mean that they're neonicotinoid free. And I know that with those lists that we have, we try and track pesticide use information and present people, but there's no guarantees. So
Okay.
you might find a local nursery, but do talk to them directly to find out what their pest practices are.
Thank you. Yeah. And Tim, I see your question about your disaster relief funding. Yes, we received it and your check should be processing. Thanks for checking in. And Demia, if you're still here, if you can send us if you want to email us, if you'd like to be connected with Bee Cities that have reduced or stopped using pesticides, please email us at beecityusa.org and we'll connect you with those affiliates. All right. Well, if that's everything, that's all the questions you're seeing, Carly?
Yes.
Okay. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you and all that you do and look forward to seeing your reports next year.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.